In this video, we'll be looking at the process of simplifying radicals. So if you remember from since middle school or so, you've seen the square root sign. We call that the radical sign. The number inside the radical sign we call the radicand. That's just whatever number's inside of it. This means the square root of 16. In other words, what number can you square to get 16? What number times itself will give you 16? Well, 4, because 4 squared is 16. So some perfect squares that you really should work on memorizing and recognizing is this following list. You can pause it and copy it down, but most of this you probably already know. You should know that 4 squared is 16. You should also know that the square root of 16 is 4. So you need to be able to go forwards and backwards. So for example, if you see the square root of 121 show up, you should be able to say, oh, that's 11, because 11 squared is 121. So square root of 49, 7. Square root of 25, well, 5 squared is 25, so 5. And then as we just discussed, 11. All right, when the radicand is not a perfect square, we can simplify the radical. And here's how we're going to simplify it. Let's not start with 720. Let's start with something a little more basic. Let's start with, let's say, the square root of, let's go with 28. We're going to factor 28. In other words, we're going to ask ourselves, what number is going to 28? Well, it's even, so 2 goes into it, as is 14. I like to underline my prime numbers. Prime numbers are numbers that are only divisible by 1 in itself. So the only numbers that go into 2 are 1 and 2. 14, however, can be broken down to 2 times 7. Now, we just broke down to 14, so we're done with it. So I'm going to strike it off. 2 is prime, 7 is prime. What you do at this point is you find any pair. So I have a pair of 2's, but only 1 7, so no pair there. I take my pair, which is right here, and I put 1 on the outside, and I leave the single 1 inside. So 2 square root of 7. Okay? Let's look at one a little more complex, a couple more a little more complex than that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the square root of 75. We'll do this one together. So we've got to break it down. So let's see, 75, well, ends in a 5, so 5 has to go into it, 5 and 15. 5 is prime, 15 is not, so we break that down to 5 times 3. 5 is prime, 3 is prime, pair of 5's, so 1 5 comes out, and the single number stays inside. Let's look at the square root of 45 now. Actually, I want you to pause and try these two out. All right, now let's look at the square root of 45. That's, once again, 5 goes into it. 5 times 9. 5 is prime. 9 is not, so that's 3 times 3. 3 is prime, and I have a pair of them. So I have 1, 3, and then 5 on the outside. And finally, 200. Well, let's see. It ends in a 0, so 10 goes into it. 10 times 20. Neither number is prime, so I continue on. So 5 times 2. 20 can be broken down to 5 times 4. 5 is prime, 4 is not. That becomes 2 times 2. Now I'm down to 20 and a 10 and a 4. So I have a pair of 5's. So I put a 5 outside. I also have a pair of 2's. So I say 5 times 2 because I have 2 different pairs. And I have a single 2 that's left over. So 5 times 2 is 10, square root of 2. When there's a number on the outside, we have to do an extra little step. All we have to do is whatever number we pull out, we multiply by the number on the outside. So for example, with 18, that's 3 times 6. 3 is prime. 6 becomes 3 times 2. 3 is prime. 2 is prime. 6 is done now. So I have a pair of 3's. And you have to ask yourself, what number is already on the outside? Well, 5 is. So 5 times, I have a pair of 3's. And the single number is 2. So this equals 5 times 3 is 15, square root 2. Pause the video and try number 5 out. All right, let's break down 150. Well, ends in a 0, so 10 goes into it. 10 times 15. 10 can be broken down to 5 and 2, both prime numbers, and done. 15, 5 and 3, both prime as well. Now, you have a pair of 5's, and there's a 2 on the outside already, so we say 2 times the pair, which is 5, square root, and now this is where it's a little bit different. You have 2 singles inside, 2 and 3. So you actually say 2 times 3 that's left inside. So 10 square root of 6. All right, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply radicals. All we have to do to multiply radicals is say the outside number times the outside number, the inside number times the inside number. So if there's no outside number, right, we know it's just 1. 6 times 1 is 6, square root of. 3 times 6 is 18. And of course, you break it down. 18 is 2 times 9. 2 is prime. 9 is 3 times 3. 3's are prime and a pair. What number is already on the outside? 6 times your pair is 3, square root 2, so 18 square root 2. Pause the video quickly and try these two out. All right, let's see how we did. Outside times outside, 5 times 1 is 5, 2 times 6 is 12. Break it down, 2 times 6. Break down to 6, 2 times 3. 6 is done now. 2's are prime, so you have a 5 on the outside. 2 times 2 is, I'm sorry, a pair of 2, so 2. Left over is a 3. 10 square root 3. And finally, outside times outside, 12 times 4 is 48. Inside times inside, 8 times 3 is 24. Break down to 24. 2 and 12. 2 is done. 2 and 6. 2 is done there. 12 is done there. 2 and 3. So let's see, I have a pair of 2's. I have a single 2 and a single 3. So 48 times 2, square root of 2 times 3. 96, square root of 6. Now make sure you do your practice with it, and hopefully that helped out.